Welcome to the lab for developing remotely and debugging in Eclipse. Let's get started. After you complete this lab, you should understand the following: how to enable remote development mode of a project that is linked to the Bluemix server. When remote development mode is enabled, you can incrementally push changes to the Bluemix server without restarting the application. That's the benefit, or at least one of them. And the other thing is you should know how to debug a local application deployed on the WebSphere Liberty server. Debugging mode helps to locate specific code where an error occurred when a user request or server response is sent. Now, I'm not going to show you every slide on the screen, but I will tell you what slide I'm on, and I'll mention the steps from time to time so you can keep up. So please keep your slides next to you as you go through this video. A few things to note. Bluemix server is a remote WAS Liberty server. So in the real world scenario, you could debug locally with your local WAS Liberty server to get small incremental changes working, and then push those incremental changes to Bluemix and see the results quickly. For this lab, we'll use Eclipse IDE and Postman. Okay, I'm on slide 3. What we're going to do now is enable remote development mode in Eclipse. So to do this, let's go to our servers view. We're going to right click on the project and say enable development mode. You should see a success message that the Bluemix server is in development mode when it's complete. Okay, you can see now mine says developing, and this can take some time, so be patient. All right, slide 3, step 2. Now we're going to modify the service API file. So up here in Project Explorer, go to our project, go to Java Resources and Source, and then you're going to find under the first package the service API.java. Go ahead and open that up. Okay, on line 36, our current message is successful. We're going to change that to say success, welcome, and then we're going to output the user ID with a period. Go ahead and save those changes. Now, if you notice down here in our server, it's now going to say it started, but it needs to be republished. Now I'm on slide 5. So what we're going to do now is we're going to right click on the server for Bluemix here and say publish. And once it's complete, you will see that it's started and synchronized now. So it has been republished already for you. Now this is how you'll push incremental changes to the remote server while you're developing. It's a very handy tool. Let's test in Postman now. I'm on slide 7. Now before we go to Postman, I like to come back here and get my URL that I'm going to be working with. So I'll right click here and say open homepage, and it's up and running. I'm going to take a copy of this URL and I'm going to go over to Postman. Okay, in Postman, we're going to place that URL in the URL. We're going to type API/service/login. Remember, we're going to change the HTTP method to post. We're going to go to the body tab, make sure it's raw, and then we're going to type this JSON to set the user ID to admin and the password to password. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click send. And if all is working correctly, we should see our new message that we just modified. Success. Welcome, admin. I'm now on slide 9. Let's go ahead and enable local debug mode on our local WAS Liberty server. So in Project Explorer, right-click and choose Debug As, Debug on Server. Make sure Choose an Existing Server is checked. And we're going to select our WAS Liberty server on our local host. Select that and click Finish. Now you'll get this pop-up if your server was already running not in debug mode. So if you see it, just make sure it says switch mode and say OK. When it's complete, you'll see this web page pop up that says hello, and that'll be pointing to your local host. And down here in the servers view, you'll see that your local WAS Liberty server is showing debugging and synchronized. Next, we're going to set a breakpoint. So open up the service API.java file if you don't have it open already. Let's go down to line 107. Now right next to the line number 107, there's a small gray gutter here. Right click on that gutter and say toggle breakpoint. You'll notice this blue dart right here next to the line 107. That means there's a breakpoint here. Alright, now let's debug this. We're going to test it in Postman. So before we do, again, I like to take a copy of my local URL so I don't have to type it out. Now switch over to Postman. In the URL up here, go ahead and paste your URL. And we're going to do /API/service/search tips. Make sure your HTTP mode is post. Have body tab selected and select raw. Now in here, go ahead and put in here the JSON for question:depression. We're going to go ahead and hit send. Now this is asking me if I want to switch to the debug perspective. I'm going to say yes. Now in Eclipse, you'll notice that line 107 is highlighted. That's the current location of the current process that's being executed, and the process is stopped waiting for us to tell it to move forward. Up here you can see the thread stack, the order has been called in, and over here in the variables view you can see the variables. Go ahead and take a look at some of the variables to see what the values are. Like under here under question, you can see that the value is depression. Okay, let's resume this. You can either click the resume button up here, the gray play button, or select F8. That's going to resume execution. Now back in Postman, you should now see the results of our request, and that means it was successful. To recap, these are the things you should have learned in this lab. You should be able to enable the remote development mode in Eclipse. This is for the remote Bluemix server. You should be able to push incremental changes to your remote Bluemix server. And you should be able to test with Postman the remote Bluemix server as well. You should also be able to enable local debug mode in the Liberty profile and test a local debug session. That's the end of this lab. I hope you've enjoyed it.